Guard, Dr. Garza.
Yes, well, welcome board members to the September 1st Brown Bag Board Meeting Work Session. And thank you for your time today so that we can go through some more information. To start this meeting, I'd like to introduce Ms. Janice Hernandez, who is going to lead us in the invocation, followed by the pledges of allegiance. Janice?
Thank you so much. Please rise. Dear God, we thank you for the opportunity to come and gather together this day. We ask for your hand of blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work and our goals this day. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic and God, indivisible, livberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez.
One more thing before we go in there. Did we have anybody sign up to talk today?
Sir, no.
Nobody?
No one did sign up.
Nobody did sign up?
No, sir. A comment to any item you discussed.
Well, we'll just go on in there and.
Well, we do have a closed session today, so if you want us to go through maybe a couple of these items, then we can do a closed session, and then come back out.
Quick, close, or
Yes.
very quick items?
About 10 minutes, most likely.
All right, let's go with item one. Go ahead.
So we do have about 5 different items of just information and conversation we'd like to bring to our trustees, kind of give you an idea of some of the initiatives and things that we're working on, our phase-in plan. You guys know that we are probably in the most peculiar school year that we've ever had to start. We just finished the 1 year closing year that was peculiar as well. And so we'd like to talk to you at the end of our 5th item is going to be what we're expecting to do starting September the 8th and moving forward. That goes along with our color code plan and our 5-point plan of school entry. To start with today, we still are working a lot in the leadership arena and doing certain things. And so our first item today that we want to discuss with the board is our principal and assistant principal selection process, talent management and acquisition. Because a lot of the conversations that we've had in the past has to do with how do you identify talent? How do you get people who are early identified onto a spectrum where they have an opportunity to elevate within the system? And so I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Fay, and she'll introduce it. Then we'll hear from her staff, who's actually doing a lot of work in this area.
Yes, so thank you for having us today, and we do have Dr. Leslie McClellan with us to introduce y'all our latest version of our principal AP selection process. We began this work about a year ago, where we have shifted gears a little bit to try to put in structures and systems to ensure that we select from our pool the best possible candidate for our kids. We've done a lot of work in that area. We wanted to give this to you as an item of information, and as things change over time, this is our 2nd iteration of this. We will keep bringing this back to our board to keep them informed about the leaders that we're selecting for our school district. So Dr. McClellan.
Thank you, Dr. Fay. Do I remove my mask or do I keep on?
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Frazier, board members, Dr. Verstedt. Today I'm here to provide you with an update of where we are with the district assistant principal and principal selection process. There, thank you. So as we look across the talent management work streams, our goal is to ensure that every campus has the highest quality leadership. So selection falls within the place pillar, and that includes how we hire our campus leaders. Therefore, our focus over the past year has been really to ensure that we implement a clear, robust, and transparent selection process. The selection process work stream was driven by 3 key objectives. So the first was to understand the current assistant principal and principal selection process. So we reviewed the existing process and determined the selection components. The second piece was about identifying current process gaps and revising the process. This was accomplished by building in a feedback protocol to ensure that non-selected candidates receive feedback along the way. And we also created an interview guide, a performance assessment, and accompanying rubrics, all aligned to the leadership commitments. The final and third objective was to pilot this process with 4 vacancies, which was completed this year, and we captured feedback along the way. So this was the process that we followed this past year. It begins with application submission and review, where we are seeking evidence of preparedness for the role from both internal and external candidates. Candidates who meet the requirements set forth by the job description are then asked to complete a performance assessment. That performance assessment is designed and aligned to the leadership commitments. Performance assessments are reviewed and rated through a calibrated rubric, and the top 4 to 5 candidates are given a behavioral interview where they present that performance assessment and respond to standardized questions, all aligned to the leadership commitments of growth, service, and results. Non-selected candidates are given the opportunity to receive feedback at both the performance assessment phase and the interview process phase so that we have a transparent system across. Our focus this year is to scale this process, implement it with fidelity, and continuously seek for improvement based on feedback and data. Any questions on this process?
So this process, we started it this year, right?
We piloted
Piloted.
last school year, yes.
Okay, so we did it with 4 candidates, is that correct?
Correct.
So what did we learn from that, and what changes did we make for, for the future?
Right, so we learned that really we needed to implement kind of this feedback loop so that individuals who weren't selected did receive feedback on where they were in the process and to understand what it was about their performance assessment or about the interview process so that candidates could feel, you know what, I received feedback along the way and it's a transparent system.
I would also add to that, that one of the things that we did was we actually with Leslie's leadership is we created a rubric, behavioral rubric that's aligned to our leadership commitments, so that as we're asking questions, we're really, as interviewers, we're really not looking for specific right or wrong answers. We're looking for evidence to support the role within those behaviors. So you may not have ever been a principal, but you may have other experiences that would give you that opportunity to have led at an organizational level that you could share with the committee. And so the questions and the rubric now that we score to are very connected to whether we're hiring someone to lead other leaders or lead at an organizational level. And so I think that's a big change that we made from last year's pilot, along with what Leslie shared. So it was a big change for me to be on the other end of that too. So
Perfect. And we're applying this this new structure from what level up?
Assistant principal and principal.
And also to administration, or?
So we used a similar process for the MDOS role. Our hope is to take this and scale it across the district to every leadership role.
Okay.
We're still going to have opportunities for Southwest ISD to lean into the culture of our past,
Right.
in that some decisions need to be made
Sure.
based on past practice.
Mhm.
But for the most part, we're trying to move all of our selection processes over time to a very rigorous selection process, and including the feedback loop, because then we want to be able to educate our own internals and externals on where can they grow, what can they do to get better for the next opportunity that they have. It's been very different.
Do we expect to do that, to train principals to do to have some similar rigor when they interview their teachers, or are we just thinking from assistant principals up?
I would love at some point to include this across the board. And certainly that's further down the road.
Yeah, a future
But,
effort.
definitely it is in the vision of talent management to
Okay.
help secure a process and a system for principals to follow,
Yeah.
so that we're hiring appropriate people in our district, but that are aligned to what we want to see for our kids.
Good, great
Okay.
job.
I think some of the noted differences are, is over the last few years, we've been able to develop onboarding positions, teacher leaders, MGOS, those folks who aspire. It gives them an opportunity in a kind of a smaller fishbowl to practice those skills and to make sure that's exactly the trajectory they want to go down. So that onboarding opportunity, identifying talent, they apply and get to those positions. And then when we interview people now, there's a portfolio assessment involved, problem practice. And so even the process of just vetting and where it used to be sitting across and talking to someone and asking a series of questions, now it's more in depth, engaged in data and data analysis and what are your takeaways from this set of data. And so that's been different. And you know, it evolves. It didn't happen overnight, but I think we keep going down this road. I think what we're going to see is some really exceptional candidates that come into those positions.
I agree. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McCrory.
Thank you.
And our next item, sir, is a native Spanish speaker placement test. And we wanted to bring this information. It's another shorter item, but we wanted to make sure we get this out there. I believe, Leila, will you introduce this?
So we've been creating some opportunities for our Spanish speaking and also for our Spanish courses. We've been also looking at Spanish in the middle school and then the opportunities that we've created there. So when we get to the high school, we also have some students that are ready to jump into other Spanish courses instead of starting at the beginning phase of this. So Zali is going to share some of the processes that we're putting in place for this.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to go ahead and share an update we brought to senior staff and then bring an item of information to our brown bag. So we did have a Spanish placement credit acceleration committee from both high schools. We had our lead teachers from the Spanish department, our academic deans, and then our CNI staff also were part of the committee. So we looked at board policy looking at EL, academic achievement. And so we looked at just different districts that were supporting our native Spanish speakers. So students would be taking a test that would be at no cost to them. And so based on the results of the test, for example, if a student scored an 88, then they would be placed in Spanish 3. So they would be enrolled in the course, and then the grade that they would receive, if they would receive a 90 for the course, then that would be reflected on their transcript. But because they showed that they were able to master Spanish 3, we know with our LOTE, or languages other than English, all the Spanish 1, Spanish 2 is embedded within the Spanish 3 content. So they would receive credit as a pass or fail on their transcript. That would not count for GPA purposes. The only GPA purposes would be the Spanish 3 that they successfully completed and received the 90. And again, it would be based on the 70 to 79, 80 to 89, or 90 to 100, but they would still have to take the class for the semester or for the year-long course. One of the benefits of having the Spanish placement test is that currently right now, our students, the only way to get credit for a course that they're not currently taking would be to take the credit by exam. That does take a long time for them to take, and also it does also a cost to the district. So if we do we're doing the Spanish placement test, it would offer immediate feedback for those students and would look at the areas that they scored really high on and areas that they needed some work on. And we're also creating our own AP potential when it comes to our Spanish placement test, because we know that we have our highest scores for AP are in the Spanish language test. So definitely identifying that pool that are ready for that placement test, for that AP test. Also, that would also give us points for our CCMR for those students who are scoring a 3 or higher on those AP exams. They don't have to wait, 3 years to be enrolled in that AP exam. If they're identified based on the results, they would be ready to take that exam that semester. And then also offer some schedule flexibility for those students who may be needing support or intervention. That would open some periods in their schedule, and they would not have to take the Spanish 1, 2, or 3, just depending where they would fall in. Do we have any questions?
So this is an area to really help our students who come in and have a really staunch background in Spanish. And instead of sitting in a class where it basically allows them an opportunity to challenge the course through exam, and we have the ability to make sure that there's a zero cost associated with that exam, and they can either get their credit or get their pass-fail and be able to have flexibilities in their schedule and move on. So it's what we do already in our policy, and so we just wanted to bring this because this will be a change. We haven't done it in Spanish before, but we'd like to definitely open that door up for a lot of our students.
How many students do we have approximately every year? Is it a lot? Is it
To challenge this test, I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, something right now, I guess. It's just another window of opportunity that we'd like to open.
Well, they're not wasting time in that,
In the
1
basic
and 2 and
Spanish.
3.
So if there's no questions, there'll probably be a board action in the future, but I figure it's kind of a no-brainer for all of us. Any opportunity we want to open up for the students, we definitely want to open up. So if you want to go to a closed session, we can do our closed session items and then come back and share the 3 informational items. Is that what you want? Like that.
All right, under pursuant to section 551.074 consent. All right, we come back into regular session. It's 12:47. And we go back on item 4, consider superintendent's recommendation on personnel.
I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation on personnel.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Then we'll move back to item C, 2020 to 2021, consider catalog for Southwest ISD High School.
Yes, sir. We'd like to take a few minutes to kind of update the board on the our Southwest ISD High School course catalog. I believe Dalila is going to introduce this.
Yes, so we have Celine and Luis who have been reviewing our course catalog, and we just want to give an update to the board for 2021 Southwest ISD course catalog. Celine?
Hi, good afternoon. So we have the course catalog for Southwest Legacy, Southwest High School, and also for CASTEM. So I do want to thank the team from CNI and also the campus leadership team for coming together and ensuring that all the courses have been added. So I'll let Luis talk about the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And we have here just the process on the first slide is just what we do is we review our previous catalog, and we do involve several team members from not only from CNI, but also from the campuses. So we give access to them to see what we have in the previous year, and any updates or changes, if needed, are made. And so that's our yearly process that we have. So CTE is one of the departments that we have, and of course the director and the coordinators review that. And say these are the updates that were made only for CTE, and I'll just go and highlight those changes that were made. In the STEM public service and our endorsements here, the offerings were updated to reflect the new and the revised programs of study from the state. The CTE course descriptions were updated to include additional courses added, as well as the deletion of some retired courses that were not being used anymore. And so we removed those from the catalog, as well as from the course deck, but this is in relation to the catalog. And then the programs of studies were also updated based on, again, the state's course programs of study that they have approved and everyone is using. Certifications were also updated, and so now they're all current. And so any current offerings for certifications are included in there. And then, of course, the CASTEM, also their programs of studies and how they have been updated have been included. So for the following year, we're already anticipating that for CASTEM, since they will be having seniors next year, we will be updating their senior courses at that time. For advanced academics, through the director, Jackie Rodriguez, very, very minimal. And so just on the verbiage as far as the on-ramps was included in the grade point system to where we note or where we focus on that class ranking. So that was really the only thing, very, very minimal things that were added or updated for advanced academics. As far as high school courses that were offered at the high schools, most courses remain the same, so very minimal updates. The only really addition that we had really as a new course was the Path to College Career Prep, which is on page 19. So that was added. Everything else was just reviewed and remained the same. And then on the fine arts with Richard Flores, I'm sorry, the updated or what we added was the art appreciation, which is on page 26. And this course was added to the course deck for the 2020-2021. And then just minor edits that he and his group made as far as under the spirit groups, the music, and the theater. This is the link, and I won't necessarily go through that, but this is the link is there on our last slide that you can pull the course catalog and view the entire catalog there. So that's really what we have for our course catalog. Those are the only updates for the 2020-2021 catalog.
So thank you, Luis. We wanted to provide today as an item of information and then for the next school board meeting as an action item. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Darlene. Thank you, Luis.
So do y'all have any questions on, there's not a whole lot of change. We were last year when we're going in with the exception of 1 or 2 courses and really emphasis on CTE and dual credit. We'll continue down that road. Before we bring that course catalog for the board to approve at the next meeting, we'll definitely make sure you have that in advance so that you can actually see the courses that we offer. I'm really proud of offerings that we give our students and pathways and opportunities, and we have more and more students taking advantage of dual credit opportunities while they're at school. Matter of fact, at Palo Alto College, Southwest ISD normally gets the award annually for having more students engaged in more dual credit success opportunities, which is cost savings to our families and a point of pride in our district every year. I'd like to just continue moving on, if that's okay, Mr. President. Our next item is our policy update, which is always riveting, but a very necessary aspect of our meetings to always go through our policy. And so I'd like to introduce Mr. Nathan Doris, who is going to be taking over facilitating policy with our district and working with our divisions. And he will do the first reading of policy update 115 that we received from TASB, and I know you put some information in your board's background together, and we'll cover that as well. I understand there's more than a few of our local policies in this update as well.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Okay, if I take off my mask? Okay. I'm just I presented a deck for everybody, so I'm gonna bring that up here. Share the full screen. Oh, do I need to share it?
You're at the top.
All right, can everybody see that? Did it go through on the Zoom? Okay. All right, so good afternoon. I'm Nathan Cadoras. I work in the Human Resources Department, and I'm going to be presenting our first reading of TASB Board Policy Update 115 for this upcoming session. So The TASB Board Update 115 will encompass changes from the law and the 86th legislative session and recent administrative rule changes. So this will be a first reading for you all. In the 115, just kind of a general overview of what Board Policy Update 115 has done. They've reorganized several policies in the FFE series, which is the student welfare. So there was a new code that was added, that's FFEB, focusing on mental health provisions. Title IX revisions, there were a lot of Title IX changes. So those will be affecting DIA and several policies that I'll cover here. But they'll establish detailed procedures for how we must respond to notice of allegations of sexual harassment. The update also includes other policies that are affected that were not covered in 114 from the 86th legislative session, and some revised administrative code as well. So the first one we have is BF Local, which basically just with BF Local, it's a revision addressing board policy adoption, clarifying that districts legally referenced policies. So for example, federal or state statutes, case law are not adopted by the board. So it's just a change that states that. And the legal policies provided information on all the current law and context for these policy changes. DED Local addresses paid vacation and holiday benefits, addresses the board's authorization of these programs, including which employees are eligible for the benefits. Administrative procedures are recommended to address the details of these programs to promote consistent, effective implementation and prevent conflict between policy and administrative procedures. DIA, which was part of the Title IX changes, DIA was impacted. So the change in DIA has to do with an adverse employment action taken against employees on the basis of homosexuality or transgender status, and stating basically that if adverse employment action is taken, it violates. And so the updated policy clarifies what discrimination looks like on the basis of sex. So it includes biological sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, gender stereotypes, or any other prohibited basis related to sex. This updated policy includes procedures for investigation of sexual harassment. There was a lot of emphasis on offering support measures for both parties. So making sure that not just the person reporting, but that all parties are ensured fairness. So again, ensuring the equity for both parties. And then that the superintendent shall ensure that the development of a Title IX formal complaint process that complies with the new legal requirements. So that'll be a separate process for anyone who brings claims of sexual harassment. That would be a separate process that would come apart from the grievance process. EI Local, revised administrative code rules. So they changed some terminology here, and what they did, instead of using the word semester, they substituted the word half course, and so they made a change there. So that change is noted in the new policies. FD Local is for admissions for highly mobile students in homeless situations. The rules require districts to adopt local policy to assist with awarding credit to these students for a course that was earned prior to the student enrolling in or transferring to the district. So we'll need to look at what credits they were awarded before they come in, just to make sure that we're doing everything to ensure that we give them the maximum credit. FEB Local, it has to do with attendance accounting. And this one is new rules remove the reference to taking attendance during the second or fifth instructional hour and specify that attendance shall be determined at the official attendance taking time during the campus's instructional day. And so assigns the superintendent the responsibility of designating the district's official attendance taking time. So there's no There's no requirement of an official attendance taking time, but it's set by the superintendent. FFG local addresses child abuse and neglect. So there were a lot of changes in there as well. It's been pretty significantly revised to comply and amend to comply with amended administrative code rules. So recommended text is included to provide the required policy addressing sexual abuse, trafficking, and other maltreatment of children. So a lot of that terminology was added into the new policy. We also are providing training to all of our staff around that as well through our Safe Schools platform. FFH, which addresses discrimination, harassment, and retaliation with students. So this also ties back to Title IX and all of the changes that were made there. So it includes sexual harassment as defined by Title IX in the definition of prohibited conduct. You'll see a lot of the changes in there where it talks about conduct, it added the word prohibited in front of it. Indicates that the district will follow the district's existing investigation process to address allegations of prohibited conduct that would not meet Title IX definition of sexual harassment. And then it adds specific provisions outlining the legally required district response when the district receives notice of an allegation of conduct that can meet the definition of sexual harassment under Title IX. The superintendent will develop a Title IX formal complaint process that will apply following a formal complaint that must comply with the elements in the new regulations. So we'll have a process that's going to be set up for that, and we've received a lot of guidance around that as well. And it designates the standard of proof in an investigation to be the preponderance of evidence, more likely to have occurred than not. FNG local includes a recommended revision to specify that a person filing a complaint regarding the refusal of entry to or ejection from property based on the law that the Texas Education Code 37.105, that they'll be permitted to address the board within 90 calendar days unless the complaint is resolved at the administrative level. GF local is similar to FNG local. It also states in compliance with the law for public complaints, if somebody from the public is not allowed into the building, they also have 90 calendar days unless the complaint is resolved at the administrative level. And this is an exception to how other timelines are calculated, especially when we're dealing with GF and FNG complaints. Usually there's a specified time frame that's 10 days. And so this is a 90 calendar day period for them. There were some deletions and there were several local policies, well actually 3, focusing on administrative details that are recommended for deletion. And those were BDF local, DMD local, and FMF local. And these were, things that weren't required to be in board policy. So TASB has recommended that those be removed. In sum, these are the recommended policy updates based on changes to corresponding legal policies. TASB has stated there's no fiscal impact to making these changes. These are items of information and no required action at this meeting. This is just for your first reading. So are there any questions?
So if there's any policy that prior to the next board meeting, if any of you would like more information on, I know inside your packet, your electronic packet, there is a vantage points that also goes into further explanation. But good job, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good job.
So we do have one other item today, and this is our phase-in plan update. And I know that's pretty exciting time because we have our landscape COVID metrics in San Antonio, Bexar County continue to go the right direction. I believe the positivity rate yesterday is 7.8%, which is the lowest it's been. We had the lowest exposure numbers yesterday reported on the daily report. And so we're excited about being able to offer those families who are seeking a face-to-face opportunity, along, I think, with many of our counterparts in Bexar County and San Antonio, how we can make this happen. We've been planning this ever since May with our 5-point reentry plan and giving that information, conducting town halls. And as early as 1 week from today, we should be able to receive our first group of students at every one of our campuses. We are currently working a pilot with some of our special needs students, who it's exciting to see them come in and get into the routine. This is only 12 students throughout the district with parents who have made that conscious choice to make sure that their students are in the classroom. And so we're each going to present a piece of it. Brandon's going to kind of give the overall of how we work with principals at each campus to identify and contact those families. And then Billy is going to talk about the program of teaching virtually and teaching face-to-face, because that's the way our classrooms are going to look. And then Janice is going to provide some information on how we're communicating this kind of globally and specifically with our parents. And we are going to lead off with Dr. Hogan, who's going to talk about our pilot program that's currently underway at 2 of our campuses involving 12 of our great students here at Southwest ISD. Dr. Hogan.
Great, thank you. Okay, so just to remind everybody, this was kind of the matrix that we'd put in place. And so looking at that, the original group that we brought in, we still brought in during the red zone. But again, like Dr. Verstev mentioned, we brought in just a few of kids. Do you want me to wait? No. Go ahead. We just brought in a few of the kids initially. And so let me kind of go forward just a little bit so you can see. So this was the original reentry process. So under phase 4, that was our pilot group. And so we had the 12 kids. We separated the kids into groups of 3 or 4 children. And the way the classrooms are set up, they each have their own zone. And so they do have great social distancing going in place. And so our first day back, the kids, I have to say, I was amazed at how many of them at least came in trying to wear their masks. We had a lot of skills that we had to work on. But for the most part, what was great is that because they were so excited about being back, that you saw a lot of effort on everybody's part to kind of work through a lot of those mitigation strategies and work through some of those social pieces that they were having to struggle with because they weren't anything that they were used to. And so in the classroom, if you look at some of these pictures, most of their classrooms are set up so that they're taped off areas. So the kids have a color-coded system so that they know that if their color's pink, everything within that area that's pink is theirs. Their desk, the floor space, activities, those kinds of things. And at least initially for those first 3 days, we set up the environment so that they really had one-on-one support to really teach them the process. So everything from the mask piece, and you can see with the young man on the left, we actually ended up having to put headphones on him so that the mask would stay on his ears because it bothered his ears to have it behind them. So we just made some adjustments so that it made it easy for him to wear. But for the most part, even those kids that came in without the ability to wear the mask, having seen the students and the staff wearing them, they were able to. And when they needed to take off a mask, then you see that on the right, we had shields that were put up so that the kid had the opportunity to have a safe space to be able to continue working, but be able to take off the mask to take a break. I will say, just going through this process, what I learned over the first couple of days is everyone needs a break. They need a break from having the mask on. And so we have to create those opportunities to do that for them. And by doing that, having these types of scenarios where you've got shields, you've got masks, you have things that can be put in place, the kids have safe zones where they can feel like they can have some space to do that. And so I wanted to show you just a real quick video of something that we've put in place for this group so that they can have movement throughout the day, which is really important just because we're not able to go out and play on the playground. So we've actually had to create sensory pathways. And so this is just one of the examples of how they utilize that throughout the day. And for this child, it was really necessary because she's one that wants to wander and be out and do. And so creating those pathways throughout the classroom have really helped that process. They're really creative for the kids and for the staff. And they incorporate some academic pieces. So she's learning to count. She's being reminded of those things that we're trying to really assess. Where did we leave off last year? Where are we at this point? So again, we move to the colors. Then she has to spin. And then she moves on to hopscotch. And those are throughout all of the classrooms. And these are going to be some of my recommendations just to the group in general, as we're kind of going through the process, really making sure that everybody understands that there's going to have to be some things in place to support that movement that they really need. And so looking at the hierarchy, that was the main thing that we looked at was, with the phase 4 was just making sure we understood the mitigation process, making sure that we worked out all the kinks. So then the next group, which is the phase 3 group, these were the kids that we were looking at, that 25% coming in. So when we talked about what do we need to consider, we really looked at all of our special populations. So that's your special ed, dyslexia, 504, bilingual. For special ed, it was very easy in the sense that we were basing it on IEP goals. Did they have very specific goals that we needed to address in a specialized setting? However, for the other groups, we really needed to consider the services itself. And so we needed to work across groups, because a lot of our kids actually receive services in all of those domains. So one of the things that we looked at was kind of creating a criteria in terms of those priority groups and what were we going to be looking for. What was great is that bilingual actually did a really good job of creating this matrix for us to kind of look at the different pieces. So, blacking out the names and all of that stuff, what you can see is across the board, what they looked at was, okay, were they bilingual? Yes. Did they have other services? Were they special ed? Did they have 504? And then they looked at their access to internet and technology. And so if they had things within several different domains, they became that first hierarchy of group kids that we'd wanted to address first. And actually, when we kind of went through that process and then presented that information out to the principals so that they could then go through that, that gave them a really good aspect of these are the kids that you really should be thinking about in your initial phase in for that 25%. Do you guys have any questions about those things?
So usually what we learned working with our special education department and applying our color-coded rubric reentry, we do solidly meet the numbers to go into the orange, which is a 25% capacity cap. And so Mr. Chris is going to go over how he's worked with the campuses to identify that so that we are serving those families who choose that face-to-face environment in a very safe and orderly opportunity at the campuses.
I just want to say thank you, Aubrey.
You're welcome.
For really working hard to bring those first kids in, and it's really nice to see it was such a success.
It has been. Kids have been great.
Could I ask, just make sure I understand, this rubric, the different colors, is that my district or San Antonio or their
It's the mental
school?
health, it's the kind of the Bexar County, San Antonio mental health information that they present. It's a combination of the positivity rate, the doubling time rate that it's taking the COVID to double over time, and the restraints on what's called STRAT, the restraints on the hospital system. So it's a combination of a number of things looking at those elements. And if they're primarily, I believe it's the positivity rate, and why when positivity rate drops, everything else drops. And so we're looking at that. So we set the metrics, the positivity rate. Dr. Wu, who's the lead person at Metro Health, is indicating once we get below a 5% positivity rate, moving to green, which is open to everybody chooses face-to-face, is a priority. But we're 2.8% away from that, and it's going the right direction, and everything's dropping. And so that creates opportunities to bring more people together. Then be very careful and be methodical and see what that looks like in 2 weeks. If we're finding that out, we bring adults back. We can put in our mitigation protocols over time, identify some asymptomatic folks that may have come into the system, not know about it, but it provides us that opportunity to mitigate those things. And so we're finding out it's working with the adults in the system coming back. We think we can do the same thing if we bring groups of students back over time, up to where TEA has it right now, the 8th week, which we have to, in order to qualify for revenue, we have to let all students at this point in time who ask for face-to-face back after the 8th week. We think if the numbers keep going, we can do it for 48 weeks. If the positivity rate continues to drop.
Can I ask one quick question? Because you know how percentages are, we all have to perceive them differently.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we bringing back 26% of the 26% that want to come back, or are we bringing in 100% of the 26%?
You may explain that? So what we did, based on what you saw from Aubrey, how we looked at the priority groups, and we asked the principals to take the priority groups and plan around those first. And then we told them to look at the kids that just chose face-to-face. How many kids chose face-to-face on your campus? And then we came up with a kind of a plan, looking at those numbers and looking at classroom capacities. And so there's two ways to do it. So we looked at classroom capacity and said, in an elementary classroom, we could put 25 kids in there, but even in a normal day, we don't. We put 22. We have a classroom size that we stay under. So we took that 22 number and then we did 25% of that. And we came up with, in elementary, we allow 6 kids per classroom across the elementaries. And then we did the same thing in the secondary schools, where we looked at, we kind of look at 25 to 1 in the secondary. And so we looked at that number and we said in the secondary, you can bring back 8. So I'll take your priority kids, put them in class first. And then now look at the kids that chose. And I will say I've been on the phone with all the principals. There's maybe 2 campuses that have some anomalies because of issues, but for the most part, any student that chose face-to-face is going to be allowed to come back on the 8th, and they've worked that on the schedule. So any families that chose during the window, now there's some caveats I'm going to explain to y'all because y'all need to know this, that if you get questions, is we had a window where people had to give a choice, either face-to-face or virtually. And then that window closed and then we kept it open and we kept it open. It was open all the way up till even to this day. We still have students that haven't made a decision. So as of today, we are telling principals, if they haven't chose, then they need to stay remote because they've made a plan. And when they actually had to turn it in to us last Friday and they've been changing it because there's a lot of factors that play in. We got to give them transportation, we got to have a feeding program, and we got to make sure that we can fit them in the classroom. So all that's happened, and I would say 90%, 95% of the schools are going to be able to accommodate every child that chose face-to-face. There is some anomalies in some grade levels where there's more students in a certain grade level on a campus, and due to maybe a teacher situation, they can't make that happen, but it's going to be fair. I mean, really small numbers with that. And what we told them also is if there's an extra kid, if you have 7 in one class, I mean, we're not going to go around and so if you can accommodate, we know we measured from every elementary classroom to socially distance 6 feet, we can have it to 12 to 14 students in there. In a high school, it's 18. Now, we're not asking them to put that many, so we're telling the secondary, plan around 6 in every elementary classroom and 8 in the secondary.
And Brandon, you're gonna phase them in over 3
No, so this is on Monday or Tuesday next week. Anybody that chose face-to-face right now,
all of them can come back.
all of them can come back. There is a few,
Don't let the parents know that.
yes, well, that's what we're going to do. They're starting to call the parents right now. They're finalizing their
There's some
plans.
parents that don't know about it.
Correct. But these are the only parents that chose face-to-face. We're not allowed, if you chose remote, you stay remote right now because they're playing around the students that made the choice. We're not letting people change their mind right now to come in. We are letting them change their mind if they don't want to come in. So like if they decide, you know what, I'm not comfortable with it right now anymore, we'll let them stay virtual because since they already are. But we're right now, because of planning purposes, for transportation, for classrooms, for cafeteria, for all the things that we're doing, we've kind of stopped today and some kids haven't chosen still. And they're still trying to call and get a hold of them.
26%, they're all going to come back.
They're all coming back as far as Tuesday.
We're not phasing in no more.
original who applied.
We're not
Yeah.
phasing in no more.
No more. Well, so like if we get a bunch of calls this week and said, you know what, I didn't make my choice and my own face-to-face. We're telling those students at this point, you're not coming next week.
They have to wait.
We're gonna, when we get to the yellow phase, we're gonna let 50% in, so you guys get to come back. So that may be a week out or 2 weeks out. We don't know when that number is gonna change, but as far as right now with our principals, and we're gonna send out a letter tomorrow, Janice will talk about that, and the principals are gonna start calling all the students that are on their rosters that are gonna get to come back on Tuesday. And so that's what we've been planning over the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of logistics to that. It's not just classroom. When we heard from other people that opened up face-to-face, classroom part has been the easiest. It's the transitions, it's the restrooms, it's the dropping off, it's the bus loop, it's the cafeteria. So that's the part that we're planning, really working with right now. And if I gave you on your table there, so I will share with you that every elementary, pretty much every school for breakfast is going to eat in the classroom. So when the student shows up, they walk in the door, whether they're getting dropped off or getting off the bus, they're going to get their temperature checked, and then they're going to walk and get a breakfast and move to their class. We're doing that across the board in all the campuses. Lunches are a little different. Lunches, because we're going to tier lunches, we're able to socially distance in the cafeteria. And so you have a sheet there that shows how many kids we can put. That's Big Country. I didn't give you all of them. How we can separate all the chairs 6 feet apart in the cafeteria. We're also going to do grab and go still. So I just want y'all to know that, because we're going to still be serving all the kids on the curbside that are coming up. So we're actually running 2 feeding programs. So we're doing the curbside, but we're also doing a grab and go in the cafeteria, where the kid goes into the cafeteria, grabs their food, and goes to their chair. And we're doing that really at every campus. There's some, Medio Creek's going to try to eat lunch in the classroom. They have chosen as a school to try that. They're just going to try and see if it works for them. They're going to work on, the part about that is teachers get a 30-minute free duty lunch, but they're going to try to mitigate that with other staff going in and out. But for the most part, all our elementaries, our secondaries are going into the cafeteria, social distancing, and getting a grab bag, and then moving those. The secondaries have a little bit better, they have more students, they have more space. They have a bigger cafeteria, obviously Southwest High School, but Legacy, a lot of their kids eat outside anyway, so they're going to set up stations outside, socially distancing. They're going to use kind of their, what is our thing called? I forgot, where you can sit up on the, everybody, amphitheater. They have, they're going to use different spaces to make it not so uniform, but keeping kids socially distanced. But for the most part, all our campuses, besides one, are going into the cafeteria for lunch. We've got the numbers on how many they can accommodate. And it's just getting the routines down. The kids aren't going to get up and go throw their trash. The custodians will come around. Their kids are going to have to stay in their chairs, and just kind of and go by that. And so what we've been working on is getting all the signage. We bought lots of signage. It's all personalized. So if you're at Legacy High School, you're going to have a Legacy signage, and it's going to, and so you can see there, you have directional signage on that sheet. It tells you, and we gave this to the principals as a rubric to use for their school, but they know their school better than us. So they may have high traffic areas that they need more signage, and so they're able to use that and move it around. But we gave them a template to use to help them with signage. We will be shutting down all the water faucets and water fountains. We are going to replace those with water dispensers. We're not going to have those in time, so I'm sharing that with you so you know that. So what we're doing is we're sending bulk water to the schools for the kids to have water bottles whenever they need one.
Are we going to tell the parents they can bring their?
Yes, and so that's the part we shared with the principals, that it's going to be okay for kids to bring in their own water, bring in their own cups, but as long as they don't share and then take them home. So there's some things they got to work out, but we're going to provide water to start off with, but it'll be a huge bill on us if we had to get water every day. So we're going to, I think the secondaries kind of already do that, especially the high schools, kids bring them in, but it's just changing your mindset and allowing those things to happen.
Did
So
we maybe put that on the school supply list? We should have put a case of water on.
well, yeah, I mean,
No, I'm serious.
correct.
Parents will probably be like, sure.
Yeah.
Bring 5 or something.
Correct. And so we're doing a lot of those things. This week, we got the signage going in. We have sanitation kits for the classroom. Every teacher is going to get a bag full of extra masks for adults, for students, face shields, gloves, wipes to clean their desk off. And then we're making a transition in our warehouse. So we're going to start housing a lot of that stuff so that we can replenish that and resupply real fast when they start running out, because those wipes they could go through pretty quickly. And then we bought these barriers. So when I asked, we bought these we had 7,000 of these show up this week. So we're pushing these all out to the campuses. We're starting with elementaries first, because we feel like the elementary students, the little ones, will have a hard time keeping their mask on as much as, so every elementary will get enough for all their students. At least up to 3rd grade, we're going to give extras. So for the other upper classes, middle schools and high schools are going to get these for the lab areas. So like their science labs, they have a table. So right now they can socially distance, but as they get bigger, they may have to have some kind of divider between the 2 students.
Why is there a hole in each side? I mean, why would there be a hole? So they can.
Well, the reason why these have holes in them, because these are foldable. So when we want to take them down for the day, they clean them and clean the desk, so they can carry them and put them out of the way. That's why they have holes on the side, so it's a carrying piece.
Brandon, so they don't have to, so the little kindergartner does not have to wear his mask when he's behind the glass?
I'm not saying they don't, I think that we want them to wear the mask as much as possible. But if they need to take a break and take it off, this is a place that probably they could do it and get a break. I think that they want to teach them to still wear it, but if they need to take it off, they need to pull it down, they need to take a break. I think that's something that we'll just have to watch and monitor. I know that comes from medical advice that everybody wear a mask, but this would just adds another layer of protection, because I know we talked about how hard it would be for them to be there all day wearing it.
So we talked about possibly having them with shield. If a parent wants to send a shield.
We will have shields for them too.
So can they wear the shield and be behind that and not wear the mask?
Well,
So if they're smaller, yes, we want them to, the mask, the shield doesn't really, there's no evidence supporting that the shield will contain the virus or protect you from getting exposed to something. So the more mitigation, preventative measures we have in place, the better. So that includes wearing the mask. So it's not to say they can take a break, but we want to work up to that. So especially smaller.
Okay, so that's wearing a mask like almost 8 hours a day, which is not healthy for them anymore.
It'd be required to wear a mask outside the classroom and those non-structured
Right.
moving around.
Yes, 100%
We're gonna
agree with that.
encourage it in the classroom.
Yeah.
They're 6 foot in their distance and they're behind a device like this, a plexiglass device, and we understand that they're gonna need some breaks.
They're gonna work up to it, basically.
But not, when they're out in the hallway, yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that 100%. I'm just saying, if they're socially distanced, they're behind plexiglass, and they have a face shield on, then they should not have to wear the mask. If they're little, I mean,
Correct.
even us trying to wear a mask 8 hours a day, it's not healthy for you.
It won't be
It's not healthy.
required, it'll just be encouraged. I mean, you're right.
Well, I mean, when we encourage something, we enforce it, so. I'm just want to be clear that the little kindergartners are not gonna wear their masks for 8 hours a day,
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
right?
I have a quick question. And I don't know if this is Brandon's purview, but are the teachers so is the teacher in the classroom gonna have 6 children face to face and going to be synchronous and asynchronous teaching?
Yeah, she's gonna cover that, but that is the
Okay.
case. That is the case because,
Go ahead and finish your.
well, just so that every teacher has their roster of students, and for the most part, that's kind of been the strife of the principal is to navigating, okay, I have my roster that we already signed these kids up. Now, how many of those are coming back?
Right.
And so some will have 6, some may only have 5, depending. And then if there's an area where this person actually told theirs came back and only 2 of mine, they're having to redo schedules, right, to make it work. So that's part, I know that Dalila will talk about that. My last part is, these are the cubbies. We bought a bunch of supplies as well. We're gonna, so that they don't have to go to their little cubby holes in the back of the room, and we're trying to limit them getting up out of there. So this will be full of their supplies. You know, anything they bring in, they'll put in there. We're also actually filling this up with supplies to send home. And so the kids that are at home doing remote will actually get to come pick these up and take supplies home. I know we're buying art kits that are individualized, because in art classrooms, you don't usually share colors and markers. So all across everywhere, we're trying to mitigate how we can not share items as much as possible. We're not perfect, so the principals and everybody's doing a really good job on all the operational stuff. But it's gonna be some practice and practice and practice until, and then you're gonna be dealing with situational stuff. And so we feel confident, the principals.
All the supplies.
Yeah, principals are doing a really good job of planning all this. Through the parameters, we always tell them to go back to our 5-point plan, because that's what we shared with the public we're doing. We told the families and community members and parents, this is our plan, this is what we're
That's
gonna
the
be following.
expectation.
So that's the expectation, and they know that. So really, that's all I have on operational. If there's any questions from my part, I'm gonna turn it over to Lisa.
Yes, so we went ahead and had some conversations with the principals just this morning, again, to make sure that we were providing enough support and that the principals also were clear on the parameters that we had created for them. One of them is to minimize the transitions amongst the students. And we definitely wanted to keep the teacher teaching the content, the expert in the content, especially for the middle school and the high school, and then for 3, 4, 5. Normally, we are known to departmentalize and reading the math, the science, and the social studies. But in the past, the students would be the ones transitioning from classroom to classroom. So we might ask for them to keep those 2 parameters, minimize the transitioning, being the adult, being the one moving. And so here, we went ahead and provided a picture, so that we can have a picture of that, but also this afternoon, we're also creating some videos of 3 different scenarios from what has been discussed with the principals So the principals also have some clarity on what that could possibly look like from the teacher interacting with the remote students and the teacher also interacting with the face-to-face students. So I'm gonna have Delia give us a little bit more of that information that was shared from the principals and also the secondaries lead. Delia?
Thank you, Dalila. Good afternoon, board members, Mr. Frazier, senior staff. As Dalila had mentioned, I did previously just meet with the elementary principals prior to getting on to this session. And all of the elementary principals that I spoke to, with the exception of 2, and I'm confirming with them later on this afternoon, but all of them do have a plan for what that face-to-face and online instruction is going to look like simultaneously. And we did discuss coming back and meeting on Tuesday afternoon to discuss how the day went and then see what type of additional support or what type of revisions we needed to make in order to best support those models and of course our teachers. So if you look here, like I mentioned, these were some of the things that were discussed. Some of the principals have already been working with their campus teams on what that instruction is going to look like. For those grade levels that are departmentalized, what they're doing is utilizing the teacher and just like as they normally would, teach the reading in the morning and then teach the math in the afternoon. And then of course they do the swapping. So that works out really well. So that way the teacher is facilitating, one teacher is facilitating the face-to-face instruction, and then the other teacher is facilitating the online instruction. So in those opportunities, those are working out really well. And again, we're gonna try it out on Tuesday. This has never been done before. So we did talk about being flexible with one another and then looking to see how things are working and then how we're gonna come back and make those revisions. One of the other things that we talked about is when the initial schedules were created by our principals with their principal input, those sample schedules that are found on our website were already designed around face-to-face and online instruction because our students are receiving asynchronous the majority of the time. We are providing synchronous opportunities for them to be able to log on when our teachers are having live sessions. But for those students, for whatever reason, they don't need to log on at that time because I'm doing really well in math, but I really need to make sure that I log on for the reading, making sure that our teachers are available during those times. So it's just a matter of switching the teachers when they're not doing that face-to-face instruction and those students are working independently that are on campus, then that teacher having some transition time to be able to now get on and provide some small group or one-on-one check-ins with those students who are working from home. So again, those students are going to be provided with both different types of opportunities. Our students who are going to be sitting on campus in the actual classroom will also be participating in some face-to-face direct teach instruction from the teachers. They're going to be working on some independent things. And then at the same time, they will also be giving some online or asynchronous opportunities, even though they are in the actual building. So while the teacher's working with the students on campus, the students online can work asynchronously to either watch the lessons, the video lessons that were already recorded, and then complete any type of independent work. Now, while the students on campus are working independently, the teacher will be able to provide some online support and some small group instruction to students working online. And so this is a sample picture, as Dalila had mentioned, that I had found. I went ahead and included it, talked to the principals about what this might be able to look like. If we want to click on that elementary sample schedule, that is the example that I was talking about, how we went in and we made some revisions and we talked to principals about it. I don't know if it's working, but that is the schedule that is posted online. And again, when it was created so that teachers have the opportunity to teach face-to-face, but then have some transition time to be able to now work with students who are online. And according to all the principals that I have spoken to, they all feel really good about their plan and they feel good about being able to roll that out on Tuesday. So again, I'm not gonna go over the whole thing with you, but you'll see those yellow rectangles there, or those spaces. Those are when there's actual live instruction. So there's multiple opportunities for students who are at home to be able to log on and get live instruction from the teachers. When you see more of the blue work, that's when the students who are on the campus will be doing some independent work. And then as those students are okay and the teacher can just turn to the other side now and get on her laptop, that teacher will now have some built-in opportunity to work with students online for those who are able to get on at that time. The other one also is during that green time. That green time allows for a lot of that flexibility for that teacher to be able to go back and forth between those groups. And we are also working with teachers and the instructional technology team for them to be able to know how to operate and facilitate breakout sessions, so they can break out and work in small groups with students, and the content team will be working with them on knowing how to group them and how often to rotate with them for each subject.
Thank you, Velia. Celine, for secondary?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. So for secondary, I just wanted to share a sample of a middle school schedule. Right now, middle schools are working to finalize their schedule as they're looking at their numbers. But the middle schools, I have to say, have done a great job at thinking of creative ways to really welcome back the students. We have some campuses who are doing, you have the golden ticket, welcome back to on-campus learning. So this is a sample of McNair Middle School, who has really taken apart their master schedule to really provide minimal transition between the periods. So students will stay in their class for the day and will move only for electives. So this is a sample of what on-campus learning and also remote learning will look like. Campuses are well aware, especially the principals, that we do provide synchronous opportunities throughout the day, but students who are at home asynchronous will log on during the time that is suited for their schedule. We did provide some recommended schedules for parents who were asking, you know, what my schedule looked like for my child. So that was provided. Campus principals worked on that to make sure that we had some samples for our community. Also, we do have campuses that are working with our IT department to look at creative ways to balance on campus and also remote learning. We have campuses working with IT on a swivel camera and also iPad. So whatever they are working on in the class will be projected to our remote learners. For high school, we do have that time that is built in also throughout the day for, you see that 8:30 to 9:15 block is also allocated for our asynchronous learners who are coming in for tutoring, athletics, and also fine arts. There will be transportation, of course, provided to them after if they do need it. But we also built in time through the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the Tuesday, Thursday rotation with suggested breaks for our remote learners. Again, our high school has been receiving a lot of positive feedback from parents saying that this is a great schedule. They've had a successful week. So again, we're going to come back after next week and really look at the schedules to see if anything needs to be tweaked. We always wanted to monitor and adjust to make sure it is meeting the needs of our campus. So definitely, if we do have any changes, we will come back at a later time to present these updates to the board. But also, we've been meeting since this past summer with our principals to make sure that they have the tools that they need to be ready for the first day of instruction, when we will have both face-to-face and also on remote learners.
Thank you, Celine. And two of the other things that we created, we went ahead and posted yesterday. It's called a community tech support. So initially on the first day of school, like Dr. Rosa, when we've shared is we didn't have the lines coming into the campus, you know, with the parents dropping off the kids, but we had the phone lines just going crazy with a different type of support that our parents needed, from Google Classroom, login, passwords, and whatever other situation that we're encountering. So what we've done is we're going to be opening up some community tech support lines from 5:30 to 8:30 Monday through Thursday. And those have already been posted on our website since yesterday. And next week, we're gonna roll out an academic tutoring. We've already went ahead and there's a lot of teachers that are interested in doing this work in the evenings. So the same thing, we're gonna be running a tech support line and also a tutoring line along with this. So these are just adjustments that we are making and also trying to provide support for our community. Along with that, since we know that we have the best teachers in our school district, we also have the best parents. And we have the best guardians at homes that are providing the best instruction. So knowing that we have 75% of our community that is staying at home, we are turning around and doing some parent PD, some in-home remote PD. And so we are working with various partners that have already also called and volunteered and said, we've got videos, we've got resources to be able to assist our district to be able to create some parent PD. So we started the school year with teacher PD. Now we're gonna come back and do some parent PD. And we're looking at the 3rd week of September to be rolling this out, and we'll be bringing that information to you.
I have a question. What are we doing for those parents that have to come and pick up lunches for their kids? I mean, are we giving them enough time? Because I've read in some of the other districts that they're already doing these things. They're having issues where the students are still learning online and then it's running into their lunchtime. And that's when they have to come and pick up their lunches if that's the need for them.
Yes, we did run into that the first week, last week, like Monday and Tuesday, so we adjusted our times. We tried to plan around the schedules, and so we worked with the campuses to make sure there's some time freed up so that they can come get the meals. And so we tried to open up as many sites as possible that would be close to community members. But we ended up, really for the high school was where we ran into a lot of the issues with their schedule, so they adapted their schedule a little bit because you saw some more breaks. And then we extended our time another 30 minutes, so that, and since then, we haven't really had anybody.
Yeah, because I mean, there may be
Yeah.
students that
Correct.
don't have a way to get here and they have to walk or they have to get a
Correct.
ride or whatever.
And so we worked that out, we did have that issue. We were able to mitigate that with the campuses and being flexible with their schedule and also us. The reason why we tried to stay closer to from 10:30 to 12:30 for our cafeteria staff, because about 12:30 to 1:30, it's extremely hot outside and they've been standing out there for 2 hours. So we were trying to figure out the best way to help serve and, protect our individuals. And so we extended a little bit longer, but we worked with the schools to kind of open the window a little bit more.
Well, that's great. I just wanted to make sure that we ensure that we have that available for the students, that we have the time.
Correct.
And that we let them know. So a lot of them don't want to ask.
Correct. Yeah, we did, they did. We had that, we had to go back and look at it and revise it, so we did. I did want to say one thing that, when we were planning the 6 students and 8 students, which I know that some districts are doing this, like, okay, this teacher's doing all virtual, this teacher's doing face-to-face. We weren't able to do that if we bring in 6 per class, because then we would have to go more in each class. So we're, in our phasing plan, we were trying to figure out a way to get as many kids back that want to choose that, but keep the numbers down in each classroom. And so just so that you all know that if you ever get a question, maybe by teachers, why can't I just be the virtual teacher?
Yeah.
That wasn't really the reason why, is because for us to bring more students back, we had to space them out. And if we had only this teacher doing remote and this teacher doing face-to-face, that teacher would need to have more kids to get the numbers back in there. So just so you know.
I'm interested to see.
Last week, and Lloyd had said that there would be 12 students.
That's if we wanted the social distance in elementary.
When we get to 50%.
Yeah, when we get to 50 and we have the social distance, that, I mean, we'll.
So you're talking about the 25%, at that point, we'll just have 6 and then we can.
Then when we get to 50, we can add some more, maybe be at 10 or 12.
Okay.
Because remember on October 19th, I think is the date, I gotta go back and look, but on October 19th, whoever chooses face-to-face, we don't have a choice. Whoever makes that decision, we have to let them in by TEA. So the board approved our phasing plan and we got an extension for 4 weeks. So we have 8 weeks and now we're into gonna be in 6 weeks at this week. In 6 weeks, we have to be ready for any student that chooses face-to-face. So on the 8th, we will have the majority of the ones that chose this first round. But then the kids are gonna get another choice. Come the next 8 to 9 weeks, they get to decide again. We may have more students wanna come in and we have to be ready to accommodate.
Our hope is everything keeps going in the right direction. We have many more students face-to-face by the end of the year than choose remote. And I'm sure it's everyone's hope, when we get to the other side of it. I know a big part of this is our communication plan as well, and I know it's always a question that the board has, and Janice is going to talk a little bit about how we're communicating all this out to, from the district globally, but then specifically, our campuses are the best form of communication for their school community, and they've been already engaged in this process. Janice?
Thank you, sir. That's right. So we are working closely with our principals to make sure that we are communicating individually with these families that are coming in face-to-face on September 8th. So part of this 5-point reentry plan is communicating that plan, communicating the phase-in plan, and ensuring that every parent is aware of the expectations of first day of school. Things are going to look different, and we want to make sure that as we have them engaged, that they are aware of all the different steps that they're going to be needed to take. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I could pull up communication plan. And as you can see, I've already been working on calling their families. So the first step that we're taking is individual phone calls. This is expected to be done by the end of today. The selected families will be informed via telephone call by today. So basically, we produced a phone script for our principals to ensure that they have the speaking points that they need to kind of talk through the steps with the parents. One of the most important things is, again, expectations. What is the first day of school going to look like? Nothing is going to be more engaging than a phone call and that conversation with a parent versus a video or something that we're not even sure they're looking at, right? So we want to make sure that as we have them on the phone, we're going through the different steps of what the first day of school is going to look like. Every campus has a different plan on certain aspects of this list. So they are going to discuss those plans and go through the steps to include lunch routine, exit policy, entrance policy, and different things like that. So we kind of made it like a flow chart where if a parent said yes or no, they would go back to moving maybe the student to the next phase. And then we also did translations in Spanish. So then in addition to that, we're communicating with parents, these same parents, through either an email or a letter. And then what basically the letter is, again, reminding them, you know, school will start for you face-to-face on September 8th. Thank you for being part of this, this journey. And then as we go through the letter, you'll see that we have different links to our commitment plan and our phase-in plan. That way parents can revisit those steps. We also developed an infographic to go along with that email. And we'll pull it up right here. So as you can see, it's basically, this applies to everyone. The self-screening, the entrance policy, visitor policy, PPE and social distancing, and the exit letter or email to families. Then third step that we have our principals doing is remind text. So on September 4th, right before the holiday weekend, our families are going to receive a text from our campuses reminding them school starts on September 8th. We look forward to seeing you. If you have any questions, please contact us. Again, here are the reminder for the steps for the first week of school. We also have our transportation staff. They are working to communicate with their families as well as far as what does the bus ride look like to school? What are the expectations? Are we wearing masks? What's, you know, so these are questions that we are going to be reminding our family, answering questions for our families and then reminding them through several different modes. As for tomorrow, steps have been taking place. We're going to let know that we have invited students to come back face-to-face, how that process took place. We're also going to be informing them of the upcoming steps for the additional phases in the future, and that'll all be in a community email and letter and on our website by tomorrow. And then we also have our phases plan. So the phases has been posted in English and Spanish on our website. We're also working on a video to go through what the phases look like so parents can understand what red, green, yellow look like. And again, informing our community about face-to-face and on-campus choice. We're going to be working with that letter today and kind of identifying those key dates and deadlines. And that is what I have. Any questions?
Our plan is to make sure that when our students come face-to-face, that our families understand what those students should expect when the bus pulls up, what they will expect when they walk onto their campus, when they walk into the room, how they access something as simple as a bottle of water that the water fountain will be off, but we have a mitigation plan until your new dispensers come in. So our goal is to make sure we communicate that. I'm really excited about the opportunity to offer free content tutoring for all of our students. That'll be one-on-one Zoom, it'll be a phone call, and that's an investment that we know the board wants, but with what I think will be at least half of our students staying remote all year, they're going to need access to those tutoring opportunities, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure they have access and get access every time they need it.
Along the tutoring lines, have we told the parents about the Khan Academy?
Yes.
Because that's fantastic.
I think part of our.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
This was very impressive.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very, very proud.
We're going to give it our best shot. So the staff has done tremendous work, and Val's has been just a king in the health thing, directing us and guiding all of us. And, you know, there aren't the best decisions, but I think collectively and with our board and with our community, we always want to put our best foot forward for our kids. And that looks different to different people. I get that. But I think this example of our students, the pilot program, really kind of shined a really light that it can be done. Of course, that's 12, probably 0.00001% of our population, but I think we're ready to receive our next phase of students. Excited.
Well, and Lloyd, I think it's inarguable that the level of detail that y'all have put into these plans is just phenomenal. I mean, there are 1,000 decisions every day that have to be made to facilitate the student's education. And because we've never been through this before, you guys had to really, really put a lot of thought into, like you said, something as simple as, oh, okay, no water fountains, they can't do that. How are we gonna do this? But I mean, the level of detail that you guys are sending out to parents and to the community is tremendous and appreciated. Because we know that there's that preparation, that prep work's been put in. So now it's just execution, right? So at least our community can feel confident that the work is being done. The work is, you guys are having the conversations, the meetings, you're placing orders, purchasing, and the principals are prepping their campuses and the teachers are prepping their classrooms and their lessons, and that we're ready. We're as ready as we can be. So the next step is execution, and that's coming up, so.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't commend our principals and our staff. Those guys are, I mean, they're class acts.
You can definitely tell that there's been a lot of hours put into this, and I've already had feedback from the community indicating that they've heard that we're doing a phenomenal job. So I just went back and said, it's our leadership, it's our school leadership as well, our staff, and especially our teachers. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that concludes our brown bag 51 minutes. Thank you guys for allowing me.
Everybody, can I say one thing though? I just want to make sure before y'all leave, because I know we mentioned, everybody that chose face-to-face up to today, we're gonna allow back. So the rest of this week, we may have students that want to choose it now. We're past the planning phase. I just want everybody to know that, so if somebody thought, hey, I didn't get face-to-face.
Their next application is in the 8th week.
Correct, but right now, everybody that's chosen it, we're accommodating, we're bringing them in. So come Tuesday, we'll be at 6 in the elementary, 8. And so you know, if you heard a class had 9 or 10, we were trying to work through that, but if we have the room, we're just so you all know. I just want y'all to, just in case you get questions.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Great job.
Good job.
We're adjourned at 8 minutes to 2.